From Studio B, two guys whose business cards simply say, I'll call you. It's The Bottom Line with your host DJ and KJ, asking tough questions, getting real answers, and sorting through it all to get to the bottom line.
Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, time for the Power Hour. Glad to be back with The Bottom Line. Ken, looking forward to another great show here tonight.
Oh, yeah, man, DJ. This has been waiting on this show for a while. Definitely looking forward to the in-studio guest here that we have, and couldn't have had a better one for tonight for sure.
Going to have a special guest joining us in just a bit. Want to recap things locally over the last week since we were with you last Wednesday. A lot to cover in the next 10 or 15 minutes and kind of get us kicked off down our list here, Ken.
Yeah, well, the first thing we want to talk about, we want to still mention that we're still locally still looking for Miss Brooke Bridges. I know this past Saturday they had a volunteer session. What did you say, DJ? 174 volunteers, something in that neck of the woods?
Talked to Matt Jordan and Brock Holt yesterday, and it was well over 100. I want to say 174, 175 volunteers showed up last Saturday at the junior college in the search for Brooke. Unfortunately, nothing was resolved during that day, but it was heartwarming to see that number of people come out and give that family as much help as possible.
Definitely was. I tell you, that's phenomenal. 100. Listen, when you gather 100 people up for anything in a community our size to do something like that, that's phenomenal.
I tell you, it's kind of a reoccurring theme on this show, and it keeps going back to social media. You don't have that turnout without social media, specifically Facebook in this case. You can get the word out to the masses. You can get good, clear information out to the masses, and I think it had to play a big role, a big part in getting that kind of turnout.
Oh, I think it did. If you look there's several things that you see with social media going on right now. Every time you get on Facebook or Twitter or anything like YouTube, whatever you see around here, lots of good things going on with our social media in and around this community. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it can be used for a lot of good things. It really can.
And likewise, you could also, some people, unfortunately, choose to use it in a damaging manner. And, of course, that's not going to be our take here ever. As we said from week one, we want to be informative, want to try to get some answers, address some topics that are important to our community. And that's what we're going to do, throughout these different shows that we're able to put on each week, and looking forward to that. And, of course, once again, going back to social media, as a way of getting information out, the justice for Devin over in East Brewton, the young man who was tragically hit going to school one day, passed away several days later in the hospital. That's been a hot topic issue. You've seen that on Facebook the last couple of days. We can only hope and pray that we get some answers there in the near future. I have no doubt that the law enforcement officials and the different people involved are working through that. I think as a community, we can only be patient with them, I think it's very important not to jump to conclusions just yet. That's going to be a time-sensitive thing they're working through, and I have all the confidence in the world that justice will prevail at some point.
I think you're right, DJ. I think that at some point, one way or the other, they will. The justice system can work slow. It can work a lot of ways. But moving on, we also had the chamber banquet last night. I think that two outstanding people named Citizen of the Year, and I think it's Businessman of the Year.
Yes.
Here in Brewton, the first one being Citizen of the Year, Mr. Stephen Dickey. We don't have enough time to sit here and name off all the things that Stephen deserved that award for.
I tell you, Stephen's a personal friend of mine. I, of course, worked for him for several years at the YMCA. There's been so many great people that have won that award down through the years. Our guest in a few minutes is a former winner, and there's several people in our community that you could choose from each and every year, but Stephen Dickey's name certainly deserves to be on that award forever. The things that he brings in our community, they're endless. Like you said, there's not enough time in this program to talk about all of them, but there's never been a more deserving winner than Stephen Dickey, and I'm just really proud of him, proud for him, and I know that he was humbled by the award.
I guarantee he was. My daughter goes to the Y in the morning. I see him in the morning time, and I don't think I've ever seen him when he wasn't smiling and happy to be there for sure.
Okay, and Daryl Consular, for the CEO there at Grady, picking up the award on the business side of it. Daryl's son, Jason, is the same age as my son Stokes in school, and I've gotten to know that family over the years through recreation and academics and athletics and things along those lines. And people that don't know Daryl, he's not in the public quite as much as Stephen is, but you need to get to know him. He's a big piece of the puzzle. They do a great job there with the foundry in downtown Brewton. He's done an excellent job, by all accounts, with what he's done with that operation, and we're very lucky as a community to have them here and have those jobs available to our people.
You know, I had a chance to sit and talk to Daryl at the end of last week, and we were talking about Brewton and the community and the things that we faced and what we don't face and the things we have and things we need and that kind of thing. And it's always good to have somebody like him who kind of looks outside. We talked about it last week that about branding Brewton and us being, sitting here thinking about it. Well, we're here every day. We just think everybody knows where Brewton is, that kind of thing. So, want to say again, congratulations to those guys. Had the Wild Turkey Federation banquet over the weekend.
I want to back up to the Chamber banquet for just 1 second. Sure. And I'm going to work the young people into it.
Sure.
That's kind of where my forte has been with recreation and being involved with the young folks. Maggie Rowell picked up the Donnie Roch Award at the Chamber banquet as well. Of course, Maggie, the daughter of Michael Rowell and Dana Rowell, and she's a majorette there for the T.R. Miller Band, and she's a junior, very involved in the school activities, the different clubs, honor society, things along those lines. And the fact that it's the Donnie Roch Award, I think, speaks for itself. Everybody knows how we feel about him on this show. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But
absolutely,
a big recognition, a well-deserved recognition for Maggie, and certainly want to congratulate her as well.
Absolutely.
Susan Miller, also recognized, I think, with the Brewton Council of Arts, kind of a Lifetime Achievement Award, was recognized at the Chamber banquet as well. And her efforts have been endless, primarily on the volunteer side. She's been very active with that group, very active at the YMCA, serves on many boards. And Susan Miller, just another one of those outstanding citizens that we have here that's always willing to give her time and her talents to make Brewton a better place to live.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, we were talking about this before we went on the air, but I think we got to mention Trip Floyd.
Oh yeah, my goodness! You talk about young people and just kind of recapping the weekend on baseball. Trip Floyd in the Battle of Murder Creek, and his counterpart Jared Cooper, who was a young man that pitched for W.S. Neal. Thankfully, I'm a T.R. Miller fan. Don't apologize for it. The game went our way. T.R. Miller won 2-0. Trip Floyd in the 7-inning game. Now I'm not a math major, but in the 7-inning game, there's 21 outs. He struck out 17 of them.
That's strong.
At the end of 7 innings, it was 0-0. So Trip Floyd and Jared Cooper both did their part. The game went 9 innings. T.R. Miller was able to get the win Monday night, a couple of nights ago. So it was a big night for the Tigers. But Trip Floyd and his parents, Stephanie and Robbie Floyd, I know they were tickled pink with him. And of course, Jared Cooper's parents, Sherry and Jeff Cooper, were equally as proud as should have been. It was a well-played game. That night it went the Tigers' way. They'll have to play again, but looking forward to that. The girls' softball got underway this past weekend down at the YMCA Park with an 8-team tournament. I heard that was a tremendous success. I don't think T.R. Miller won the tournament, but had a good showing nonetheless. I had a track meet there on Friday, so all our young people out and about. And it's, if you're ever in town and see the lights on there around the YMCA, the high school, you need to stop by and support them because we have some outstanding young people in our town.
Yeah, I want to also mention Mr. Dennis Hadaway retired. Today was his last day at with the W.S. Neal Middle School. He hung his shoes up and was moving on to bigger and better things. So I want to give that shout out to him. I'm just happy to know somebody that can retire, to be honest with you.
I tell you, you hear the people that teach over there, they love him. I think that speaks volumes about him. I've never heard a teacher there at his school that did just rave about his leadership and the way he allowed them or empowered them to do their job, and very supportive of their efforts in the classroom, not only with the curriculum, but also discipline and things along those lines. But Mr. Hadaway's a good one, and he'll be missed. He
will certainly be missed, that's for sure. Back to the Wild Turkey Federation. Beard Busters chapter this past weekend. Great success from what I'm told. I was told it was just about standing room only.
Well, I can tell you, I was coming in from Andalusia that night from a baseball game, and I don't know where they're going to have it next year. They can't have it at the Hourglass. They have outgrown the facility. There were cars everywhere.
That was the report everywhere. I got. They had outgrown the Hourglass.
We can't. Eli Cook and I were coming in the old DeLon's service station.
Sure,
packed with cars. The bank parking lot over there that is adjacent to the Miller Investments building, packed. Behind the old City Hall, packed. I don't know what they're going to do, but Lance McKenzie, Marshall Bracken, Brian Riles, all those guys have done a tremendous job promoting that event, getting people interested, getting people involved. Just a nice night for our community, and the problem they have is finding a place to have it next year.
Listen, they may have to move that thing to the to T.R. Miller Stadium or Brewton Municipal Stadium.
Seriously.
I mean, I'll tell you what, that was a tremendous turnout for that Saturday night. And all that from my understanding and talking to Marshall, all that money goes to benefit conservation and things such as that. So another great community thing that going on here in Brewton. Speaking of community things, is the Chamber coming up. Of course, April the 9th, we have Kick It at the Creek coming up, the local crawfish bowl. And the weekend after that, we have the Temptations coming in at Jennings Park, both those events at Jennings Park. So looking forward to that. I think the Temptations, certainly, again, as I was talking about last week, David, I'm just amazed at all the people that call them and say, where's Brewton?
Yeah.
And still getting some of that too. So definitely look for that. One thing we want to kind of go over real before we take it to the first break, the WSNL Quarterback Club is selling their tickets for their $10,000 giveaway. Of course, they're $100 a piece for the $10,000 giveaway. But you get was it a steak? I think they cook the steak over there and that kind of thing. And
how can we get a ticket?
I tell you, Mayor Terry Clark sells them.
I tell you what we can do: send everybody to Pete Chevrolet. Ask for Terry Clark. Get your ticket. Look at the inventory while you're there.
That's a great idea. But I tell you what, what a tremendous thing. They always have a great, just a great turnout for that. Of course, I think Miller's is in the spring. Is that right, DJ?
It'll be Miller's is usually during the football season, and they have their drawing late, about the 7th or 8th game of the season. They'll have their drawing at that point. So TR Miller will do theirs in the fall. I think that's a good idea. Neil does theirs one time during the year. TR Miller a later time. It gives everybody to save up an extra $100 hopefully and buy a ticket for both schools.
Hey, listen, I think that's outstanding that they don't do it on top of each other because $100 is $100. Let's be honest.
I have to ask for a special listener and keep it in line with Brewton today. Are we going to get to the happy birthdays and the obituaries here in just?
Listen, I can't tell you how hard I hunted for the "Today Is Your Birthday" song, and we got about 6 or 7 obits we can talk about here if we need to. But hey, listen, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have a in-studio guest here with us tonight that we were talking about earlier when we started the show that we were looking forward to. Get your computers, iPads, iPhones, TVs, whatever, get them ready. We're going to get to the bottom line of some things here in just a little bit for sure. We'll be back.
And we are back in Studio B. Very excited to have our guest here with us today, Frank Nalty. Frank, a neighbor of mine many, many years ago. Frank, about 10 years older than me, but lived across the street with his family. And Frank, I appreciate you coming on. I think that the next 30 or 40 minutes is going to be a good visit with you. Looking forward to sharing a lot of information with the public, but I just really appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Very glad to be here, and thanks for the invitation to be able to attend tonight.
Very good. Frank, we talked about several things in the opening, and of course, mentioned Stephen Dickey being the Citizen of the Year, recognized by the Chamber yesterday, along with Daryl Consler. You're a former winner of that, won it back in 1999, and I'm going to let you kind of throw out the superlatives here, but I know that you're very pleased that Stephen Dickey and Daryl Consler both picked up those awards last night.
Oh, I am. They started reading about Stephen Dickey, and it didn't take me long to figure out, or the crowd to figure out, Stephen Dickey. I mean, you can't find a better person. I've got to know Stephen Dickey very well through my brother-in-law, David Peace. He always comes out to the camp hunting, and he was fishing in a pond the other day and caught a humongous bass.
I've heard all about it.
I said, well, where's it at? He said, well, I put it back in so somebody else can enjoy it. You don't have a lot of people to do that. I mean, that tells you about Stephen Dickey right there.
10-pound plus bass aren't easy to throw back.
Oh, shoot. And I think it's grew even bigger than that since that story's been told. It's gotten really big.
And, of course, Daryl Consler there at Grady and what he does for our community, the jobs they provide here, he's well deserving of the award he picked up as well.
He very much is. When they read about him, and I didn't know Daryl very well, other than, he's been here in Brewton. They mentioned that his wife really kind of was at shock coming to Brewton, but she's really grown and loved Brewton like everybody does when they move here. But he saved that plant. He took and he surrounded himself with very good management, and they pulled that plant around and made it what it is today, one of the stars of their company.
Yeah, I think he's actually from the Prattville area.
I'm not sure where he's rooted at.
I think that's where we talked. He told last week I was talking to Daryl, and he said that he remembered when you could just look at up there at the Prattville exit, and both ways there was just nothing. There wasn't anything up there. That's what he said.
Frank, several things we want to get to, but one thing I have to ask, and of course I would wait for you to come on live internet radio to talk to you about it. When I was a kid, I have many great memories of growing up in Brewton, Alabama, and I wouldn't have traded my childhood with anybody during any time. And of course, a lot of people would say that, which I think is a testament to our town. But one of my great memories is your dad had the big tree there on the corner and would put Christmas lights on it each December. And that to me was almost as big as Santa Claus coming himself. Of course, the tree's about 3 times the size now that it was then, but that was awesome. And I want to know this. I now have a 7-year-old daughter, and she gets all amped up during Christmas. Any way to get a cherry picker, I'll come over and help and try to get that thing restrung.
I think we could probably do that. I mean, the person that would be great to help us do that is no longer with us. That's Bernie Sellers. That man would bend over backwards to do anything for this community and never ask for a thank you. Now, that cherry picker's around here. We can find one. We just got to find enough lights to put on that tree. That tree is humongous now.
I tell you, Frank, and like I said, we grew up in the same neighborhood. You were older than me. You were 10 years older than me, and all I can speak of when I was coming through, and these guys were all friends of mine. They may be kin to you somewhere down the road. There was one rule in the neighborhood at my house when I was coming through, and I kind of wanted to compare it to your notes when you were a kid. There was one rule at our house: stay away from the West Boys.
Well, that wasn't my rule. Before you moved into the house that's across the street from my mother's, the rule was do not go to the Goodwins' house.
Okay.
They live there. Now, what you had to know about the Goodwins, the Philippis lived next door. Dr. Philippi did. And you had Bucky Philippi. They all played football. They were big sports fans. I don't know how they did it, but I got permission. I would walk across the street on Saturday morning about 9 o'clock. They had the films from the football game the previous night.
Wow.
I mean, they got the big projector out. It was on the wall. We got to see everything that was going on. Now, I found out they used to meet the bus, get the football films for the next team that was coming to play.
Okay.
And they'd meet it downtown and get it before the coach got down there.
Wow.
And they had that film. So the coach naturally had to come out and get the film later in the day to be able to start preparing for the next game. But that was my memory of where you grew up at, so it wasn't a West Boy problem. It was the good ones.
Love the West Boys. Good people, good folks.
Oh, there's more stories that you could talk about that went on in that neighborhood than you can imagine.
It was a great neighborhood. Talk a little bit, of course, we mentioned a little bit in the opening about the Wild Game Supper. Your son-in-law, Brandon Douglas, is also involved in that. I erroneously omitted his name going through it the first time, but they're involved in several different things, have an event coming up this Saturday that a lot of people might be interested in.
They do. They have an event at Turtle Point this weekend. It's a family event. It's open to the public. It's from 9 to, I think, 3. Hopefully the rain's not going to hamper that. But they are bringing the Jake's display there, and it will be a BB gun shooting arena so that the young kids can get exposed to a safe way to learn about gun safety.
And you don't have to bring your own BB gun. They will be provided.
It will be provided down there. So it's some type of blow-up, big thing that you're going in. And it's very safe. And I told all those guys. I told Marshall. I told Brian, and especially Lance. Lance, he doesn't get to hang around kids very much. So I told him, I said, look, be careful. That BB gun can shoot your eye out. So y'all please be careful about that.
And that's free to the public. Is that
free to the public? No charge whatsoever.
I'll tell you, and we were talking about it when we were off there. All those guys, Lance McKenzie, Brian Riles, Brandon Douglas, Marshall Bracken, Cody Anthony. I mean, they have really gotten behind this thing.
And
really,
Paul Wayne.
Paul Wayne.
Forget about
Paul Wayne Hayes. Paul Wayne Hayes have brought a lot of energy back to that chapter, doing a lot of good things, giving back to the community, and it's just really neat to see this generation kind of coming back and giving back. That's very important.
It is, and I think they raised way over $30,000, and that stays around Alabama, and that helps put that free event on for the Jakes to be able to, the young kids to be able to use that BB.
And kind of tying us all together with a nice red bow on top with the conservation efforts. That's how you catch 10-pound bass.
That's exactly right. Hey, it's lime, it's fertilizer, and clean water.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly right.
Talking about Turtle Point, and this will kind of lead us into our next little discussion. RC&D was one of the main entities that kind of drove that project, and of course, you chaired that committee for many years. May still chair it as we speak.
I do not. I'm on the board. The chair moves around to each county. RC&D stands for Rural Conservation and Development. It was a USDA government-sponsored program. Okay. And the program was designed to come into areas that were underserved and help education, farmers, the Indians, and anybody else that needed help as far as trying to grow crops, trying to teach education, and it was to stand alone after a few years. So the government cut their funding out. It now is a standalone RC&D agency. We now receive funding from the state of Alabama. We get Education Trust Fund money to put out for education products for the students. We also get regular funding from the state. I mean, we get about $200,000 or $300,000 that we're able to push around as grants in 3 counties: Baldwin, Mobile, Escambia County. So it's all divided equally, and to promote better understanding of conservation and health.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I can speak on behalf of the YMCA. You and Raymond Wiggins, who also is on that board, have been very good to us over the last 4 or 5 years with different projects, been able to help us with some money on some drainage issues, getting some erosion issues taken care of. They would not have gotten addressed otherwise. So we're very appreciative of what you guys have done.
And we also did that nature trail that goes out the back.
Sure.
I mean, those are projects that's been going on for numerous years. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've done a lot in East Brewton.
Well, I'm going to take the liberty to speak for Joey Shell. Y'all helped him as well. I mean, y'all have definitely done it some.
We are able to use education money over there in East Brewton for the women's softball field.
Sure.
And drainage, and also for public restrooms.
And, that's one of those things, whether we want to admit it or not, in a rural area, East Brewton's a rural area, comparatively speaking. If you have to be able to identify resources, kind of pull some resources together, people like yourself, people like Raymond, that they can get on these committees, get on these boards, and kind of put some of this money back out in our areas that affect our young people, affect our elderly, just improve our quality of life. And I'm just telling you, without that, we wouldn't necessarily have what we do. So I'm very appreciative of what you guys have done in terms of making those projects a reality for all of us.
Well, we also have Larry White is on the board too.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so he's one of the other county commissioners. We have done a lot for fire departments.
Sure.
I think this year's grant to the Appleton Volunteer Fire Department, $35,000 to help them start working on that new firehouse number 2. So
I'm going to tell you something, and that's one of the entities I think that kind of gets overlooked sometimes in our county, and I had to work with them closely back during Hurricane Ivan when I was the EMA director. These volunteer fire departments are heroes.
They are. And until you've had one pull you out of a wrecked vehicle, and I've had that happen to me out in the Roberts community. That fire department was there. They pulled me out of that truck. They made sure that ambulance was there. They coordinated and took care of me. And for that, very thankful. You don't know how much you appreciate that until you're put in that situation.
I'm just going to hit the rewind button just real quick back to Hurricane Ivan, and everybody that was here understands what we woke up to that next morning.
Awful.
They were the guys out clearing the roads to get help in here. And I'm telling you, the help never comes without these volunteer fire departments and the paid fire departments. Brewton, Atmore, they were all involved in it. But those guys do a lot with little. If you ever get a chance to support them, whether it's one of these fish fries or turkey shoots or supporting legislation that gets them more money, they are heroes.
They are. And, you talk about Hurricane Ivan. When you have a hurricane or a disaster like that, we, as the general public, have to be prepared to take care of ourselves for at least 3 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've got to do that.
I'll tell you what, Frank, and we're going to take another short break, and we come back, we're going to get into a few more things. But, Ken, if we can, let's go to a short break and I want to get me another bottled water, a Pepsi product, by the way.
Go figure that.
A Pepsi product, by the way, and we'll go again. And we're back in Studio B, and Frank, you're going to find out, Ken and I have learned the hard way the last couple of weeks, we will oftentimes be corrected. And I've been corrected once. Lance McKenzie just chimed in the wild game, the Wild Turkey Federation took him $45,000 to $50,000. So,
well, that's good. Sugar Britches, that's what I call him, Sugar Britches, that he will correct me if I'm off just a little bit. And that's a substantial being off amount.
So it was an even better night than we thought. But
gosh, those guys did better than what they actually looked like they did.
Frank, I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag. You're going to run for mayor.
That is correct. Running for mayor.
Going to run for mayor. Talk a little bit about your love for Brewton and some of the things that have kind of driven you to put yourself in this position to be in this race.
Well, as everyone well knows, I ran for mayor last time.
And I did too, and I finished third.
And you and I had a good time running for mayor, though, didn't we?
We did.
Yes, we had a very good time, so...
that's about the fifth time I've heard that statement right there. DJ finished third, Frank. That statement.
I finished in the top three.
Well, I mean, that's good. Hey, at least you didn't finish in the top 10.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
You know, aren't you glad you didn't run for president?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, but you know, the main thing here in Brewton is when you grow up here, you kind of know what has transpired in the past, so you can build on those things. You know, we have one of the best school systems in the state of Alabama.
Absolutely.
Can we improve on that? We can always improve on something. You know, we have one of the best hospitals here in Brewton with the best doctors that give it their all. You know, Dr. Whittle is a very good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He goes way beyond. You know, he's almost 80 years old. Does an excellent job. We have a great city. We have all the resources we need to move it forward. What we have to do now is come back and restore credibility to the city. You know.
I want to go back to one point you just made, Frank, and of course, you and your wife were both educated here in Brewton. Went to Terrell Middle High School, grade school all the way through. Your children followed the same path, and I'm not speaking for you, but my mother was a teacher during the time that you were out there, and Allison as well. And I just remember it as being just a great time in Brewton. It was great administrators, great teachers. It was certainly that way when I came through. I'm hoping that the young people are experiencing the same thing now. So I know that you know what has made T.R. Miller and Brewton City School System so important over the years and so good over the years. And those are things that you can probably bring to the table to make sure that infrastructure is still in place and they're getting the support from City Hall they need to continue that trend.
Well, when I was in high school, they had student bus drivers back then.
Are you kidding me?
I was one of those student bus drivers.
I've never heard of this.
You've never heard of that?
I've never heard of this.
You know, I sat there. I drove
I've
that
never heard of that either.
I remember when I tried out for the school bus driver. And the guy that was the head of
You're being serious.
I'm serious. You can ask Lynn Smith. He was there.
So you didn't have to have a CDL back then to drive?
No, but you had to go to bus driving school.
You had to go to bus driving school.
But that was once you passed the test.
Did you drive bus 3, 5, or 7?
I just drove whatever wore-out bus they had ready to go. You know, because I can remember driving I was in the band. I got injured when I was young, busted my spleen playing football. So I said, well, that's not for me. So I'm not going to play football. So I got to drive the band bus. When we would go out of town on the band bus, I brought 6 quarts of oil to get that bus there and back. I mean, that's, you know, they took that equipment and they used it very good. But Mr. Pendergrass, he was the head of the bus driving guys. And he told me, he says, get in this bus, back it up to the back of the short stop, you know, of the baseball field. And I backed it up. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, what are you telling me to stop for? He says, you're going to hit that pole. I said, you said back it all the way up 4 inches from that pole. And that's what I'm doing. Well, you know, most folks hit it and knock it down. You didn't do that. So, but I drove the school bus.
That is unbelievable. Let me ask you this.
Oh, Cal Turner did too.
Were the West boys ever allowed to drive the school bus?
No, but they got to ride in the back. Yes, they had a good time. Yeah. So I mean, that right there taught responsibility.
Sure, it did.
You know, being able to drive. We would drive. I would drive the Montgomery, Birmingham. You know, I was a requested bus driver. Take the. Do you know how many times I went to the state capitol? Numerous times during high school.
Wow.
You know.
I got to ask this question because it just came in. Of course, I want to say we're getting flooded with questions.
Okay.
But this is just a good question I know you can answer.
Okay.
Frank, Lance McKenzie is a big supporter for Nalty Seasoning. Does he work there or is he just a cute sales or spokesperson?
Well, we like to consider him as just a spokesperson. You know, the cuteness, I think that was given to him by his mom.
I know he's a big taste tester.
Yeah,
I know that he serves as a taste tester.
This guy, Lance will travel with us when we go do shows. We do shows in Alabama. We went to the Wild Turkey Federation a few years ago, and I've got Marshall, Brandon, Leslie, my wife, Mooney's with us. He's a little bit younger at that time, and we're there at the Grand Ole Opry, or Opryland, and they're working this booth. I didn't even have to do anything. I mean, they're doing an excellent job working this booth. Lance didn't even ask for me to pay for anything. We have pictures of him asleep in the hallway up there. You know, they stay out late, and all the country music stars are there. And of course, you know, they had a good time. I had to go to bed early. You know, I had to work. But they're my traveling team. They go anywhere and everywhere with me when we do something like that.
Your travel squad.
My travel squad.
Yeah. Well, certainly we haven't done this yet, but DJ, we got to give big props to Lance for bringing by the Pepsi products again. How many bottles of water have you had now, DJ?
I'm on my third. I'm on my third.
Okay. Well,
there's another one left. I'll get another one.
Yeah. There it is. Back to you, DJ. That's there you go. There you go.
Frank, getting back to what we were talking a little bit earlier, and some of the things that you would like to see, and some of the things that you've addressed, and don't want you to get too specific with plans, because those will come out at a later time as it gets a little closer to actual going to the booth and voting. If there are one or two, or maybe even three areas where you think Brewton could use some improvement, some things that might need to be addressed in a different way or more thorough way, are you prepared to speak on that?
I just have a few points I'd like to speak of. We need to cut waste, we need to cut fraud, and we need to cut abuse here with the city. Now, that goes to any business too. I'm not saying that because it is rampant and running rampant in the city of Brewton. Those are just things, waste, fraud, abuse. And that's in any business, whether it's a city or not. We need to take and help our existing businesses that we have here. There's times that they need new equipment. There are tax abatements that we can give to the existing businesses. But then yet we need higher paying jobs here. It's great to come in, you got high school students looking for a job, to go work at these restaurants and stuff like that. That gives them a reason to get up in the morning, go to school, get a good education, go to work in that afternoon, work some at night, and better themselves to be able to handle a higher paying and a higher quality environment.
One of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and I think you would agree with me on this, trying to recruit industry. That's a job that every community in the country is trying to fight. Everybody wants those jobs to come in. I also think it's important to be appreciative and focused on what we already have, and make sure that we can be supportive of them. We have T.R. Miller Mill, we have Grady, we talked about them earlier. We have Georgia Pacific. So proud to have them here and the jobs they do provide. We're just looking to add to that.
That's exactly right. We don't want to take, or I, as a candidate for mayor, do not want to take and throw these existing businesses to the side. We want to take them, cuddle them, put them under our wing, and help them grow. I mean, that's the same way Daryl did. He came in here, he came into the ironworks down there. That's what he did. And that's what we need to continue to do.
I got another, we talked about Spinks a little earlier.
Okay.
I got a question from Spinks Meganson, our local weather guy. Well, I tell you what we should have done. We should have got Spinks to.
We need to get Spinks to call in and give us the weather report.
Yeah, we do.
I tell you what, let's ask this question and give him a chance to call in, because I think we have some more weather coming in this weekend.
I think we do.
We would like to get out there. So ask the question. You let Frank kind of speak to it, and then as Spinks, if you'll be ready after that to call in, we can get a weather report.
Spinks asked Frank, he said, is there anything that can be done to incentivize college graduates to move back to Brewton? The fact of the matter is a substantial number of college grads don't come back here. Can we change that? And if so, how?
Well, Spinks is a prime example of a college student moving back to Brewton. I would love to see the city put in a public television station here, so Spinks can do a lot of on the air broadcasting to people who don't have computers. So, but in order to answer Spinks' question, to get people to move back in Brewton that's gone to college, coming back, we have to have a high-paying job for these people to come back to. Whether it's working on a project for Airbus in Mobile, whether it's working on something for the car industry that's in Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, or something in Pensacola. We're in a very good economic zone. We're right next to the interstate.
Well, speaking of Spinks, and the product he has out there with the red zone weather, and once again, this sounds like a broken record. He has used social media to kind of grow that thing, specifically on Facebook. And I can tell you this, I've got a whistle and I've got a helmet for the bad weather. I know more things about weather now than I've ever known. And it's because of the information he gets out, especially in times of severe weather, to kind of help us prepare and keep us safe. And the service he provides is incredible.
Right.
So you were talking about, possibly creating an avenue to get Spinks on TV. How could that happen? I mean,
Spinks, you there?
How could you put Spinks on TV?
Well, what we need to do is
Spinks,
first we apply for a low-power TV station license here in Brewton. Those are
Spinks,
readily available from the FCC.
Okay, hold tight.
It's just filing paperwork. And of course, you got to buy a transmitter. I haven't checked the price of that yet.
We have Spinks Megason Red Zone Weather online, Frank, and DJ Spinks. You with us?
I got a question for the candidate this evening.
Shoot, Spinks.
All right, tell me this, and I'm sure a lot of the folks watching and listening tonight want to know the same thing. Tell me a little bit about how you would increase the incentive for businesses and economic development and that sort of thing to happen in Brewton. Can you tell me some specifics?
Well, I don't want to get too specific because sometimes those things get copied, but they don't know how to fulfill it. But I'll speak briefly on it, Spinks. It's the mayor's job to go out throughout the United States and recruit business. You have to have a knowledge of recruiting. You have to have your council to back you with incentives to be able to present to those businesses that you're wanting to bring to Brewton. It would have been great to have the Remington Arms Factory here in Brewton, Alabama, instead of North Alabama.
Could that have happened?
If the right people would have been in the right place and have known that Remington wanted to move,
wow,
yes, that could have happened.
How many jobs could have come with that potentially?
I'm going to guess at this. I think you probably would have had 75 to start out with, because then you probably having transition people moving down for where Remington was.
Sure.
Alabama is a pro-business environment. They have the Alabama Department of Economics Development, the ADO, I think it's called. They are very, very good. Your brother-in-law, he is top-notch in recruiting for the Tri-County area here. Coastal Gateway, they go out and they can't talk too much. You can't, loose lips sink ships. So you have to be very quiet about what you're doing in order to get new industry here in the area. I don't think anybody would mind driving to Atmore to go to a higher paying job.
And you brought up Atmore, and I want to ask this question, and I hope first of all, Spinks, thanks for the call.
Let's get Spinks to give it real quick while we got Spinks. Spinks, tell us a little bit about the weather coming in.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of rain on Friday. In fact, some spots could see upwards of 3 to 4, maybe even 5 inches of rain. So lots of rain coming in this weekend, and certainly not going to be a good weekend to be out and about. But the silver lining, we're going to have some nice weather next week with warm temperatures in the 80s. So hopefully we'll get through the rain event unscathed in terms of severe weather. The threat is low, except for flooding. We could have a few minor flooding issues, but overall the threat is pretty low for tornadoes and that sort of thing. Certainly nice to have a break after all these weeks of active weather.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Well, I've got a question for Spinks.
Go ahead, yeah.
Spinks, where do you think the most rainfall is going to be, north of Brewton or south of Brewton? Because that has a lot to do with the hydraulics in the creeks around here.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the heavier rain is actually going to be off to our west. And in terms of Alabama, Mobile, Washington, Choctaw County is going to have probably the most rain. But here in our part of the world, we certainly could see, like I said, 3 to 5 inches. And places back to our west, out near Monroe, Louisiana, they actually were under a very rare flash flood emergency. So certainly the moisture axis is set up there. And as that system moves off to the east, it seems like it's going to lose some steam, but nonetheless, we could have some rain this weekend.
Okay, Spinks, thank you again. Appreciate you answering the call. I was trying to get you there to begin with, but hey, thanks for answering our questions.
All right, thanks.
All right, see you,
Frank. I have a question, and this is kind of getting all over the map here, and it goes back to RC&D and talking about the rainfall and the creeks and things of that nature.
Right.
One of the projects you spearheaded several years ago through RC&D was kind of untangling our creek beds and kind of getting them where the water would flow at a better rate.
But that came from USDA and RCS.
Okay.
That came under what they call EWP, Emergency Watershed Protection Act. Those are funds that are delivered to the states that have actual emergencies.
Okay.
And because Brewton that one year had a tremendous amount of rain, like 6 inches in less than an hour, that qualified Brewton, Escambia County for these emergency watershed protection funds. That's when we had a little bit of flooding. We were starting to back up the creek. It was eroding the banks at the Jennings Park before it was Jennings Park. It was eroding the banks in East Brewton, and it was threatening to come into the East Brewton garage there. So I, meaning myself and the board that I sit on, were able to secure funding from the USDA, and we put all that riffraff in these creeks. Now, to go on top of that, we were able to get a little bit more money because there was some money throughout the United States that wasn't being used and would have been turned back into Congress. So we filed paperwork on that to come in and remove the debris out of the creeks, north of Brewton, south of Brewton, all the way into the Connecticut River. That has helped over the years to try to alleviate a little bit of flooding in Brewton. So when you move that around, we were able to alleviate at least 5 inches of flooding into the floodplains of Brewton and East Brewton by rain.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a lot. When you talk about 5 inches and you talk about floodplains and water getting in downtown Brewton and what it does, that's a big number. And I was asking that to kind of get to this. You know, we've had a lot of rain here in the last several months, and the creeks have kind of come up and gone down and gone up again. And now that they're down somewhat, you look there at the overpasses, the trestles, the bridges or whatnot, and you see some debris that is there now that was not there 6 months ago. Are there any funds to tap into to kind of clear that up, clean that out? Because so many people, and we're so lucky to have the natural resources that we have, so many people use them as swim areas or, you know, just kind of enjoying the water with their pets or whatnot. Are there any funds available to go in and just get the debris, the tangles that are at the foot of the bridges?
Well, because we hadn't had any major events, there's not any funding right now. But that is considered a natural, not erosion, but debris coming down. If the bridge wasn't there, it wouldn't have stopped. It would have kept going. It went into the river and eventually made its way up against the banks and turns. And Mother Nature uses that to catch sand and build sandbars and move water around and make habitat naturally for the fish in these rivers and streams.
Tell you what, let's take a break here, DJ. We're getting a lot of questions in, and want to get to as many of these as we can, and so let's take a break. And which DJ's got a half full bottle of water over here, but we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a minute.
Start at the beep.
Go ahead, caller.
Hold on one second. Hold on.
Hey.
Back in Studio B, having a great hour here, the Power Hour with Frank Nalty. We may run a little over tonight. Look forward to that. Make sure you stay with us. And Frank, first of all, I want to say that I know that Ken is with me on this. Appreciate you once again coming in. There is no script here tonight. You know,
No, there's not.
You put the headset on, the mic goes live, and it's not for everybody. And it's appreciate you doing it, and you've done a great job so far tonight.
Well, I want to thank Lance for the Aquafina water here. I said my mouth's been getting dry on this, so yeah.
Definitely. Got a caller on the line.
Hello.
Is this Greg from Fort Fleming?
This is Greg from Fort Fleming. How'd you know I was going to call?
Well, got a word during
I can't resist, DJ.
Got a word during the break that you were calling in, and of course we always appreciate your input. And you're kind of the ones that got us kick-started here about 4 weeks ago. So you're always welcome at the bottom line.
Well, I appreciate it. Listen, I just want to say that I was really excited to hear that Frank was going to be there tonight, and I do appreciate him stepping up the plate and coming on tonight.
He's done a good job.
He's done a fantastic job, Greg.
He has. Yeah, I gotta. If time permits, I gotta something I want to ask Frank, and also want to touch base with you about last week's question. But for Frank, I just want to say that what he said tonight is what I've been preaching. That we need something for people to be able to either stay and work, have a good job, or come back in the future and have the opportunity to have a job, so that the town the census don't go down. I am concerned with wasted money. He touched on that. I'm concerned heavily with that, which will get into my question with you from last week. But I'm concerned about money's wasted. And I just wanted to ask Frank if he was willing to make sure that the budget was well defined, and if the city said monies went here, we knew where it went, and that the monies was not wasted.
My answer to that, Greg, is that in my last campaign, it said I will put the checkbook online so that every individual, whether you're living in Brewton or anywhere else in the world that's concerned about Brewton, you'll be able to see where your money's going. The office of the mayor will be open. It will have an office in City Hall. We'll, take questions, answers at city council meetings. It'll be open to the public. That's what it's for.
Good. I appreciate that. And Frank, one more thing I wanted to touch base with you on and ask you about was, I won't say who, I won't do him like that, but I had a young man that worked for the city. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. And for some reason, he wanted to get it off his chest, I guess. And he was telling me how this just been, back during the summer, I was mowing grass and he came through. We got to talking. I was asking him some questions, and he was telling me that, he had to choose between the rent or having power. And that concerned me, and I just wanted to ask you if, I know some people are worth what they do, worth what they're paid because of the way they work and they do their jobs, but if we can make sure that pay scales are proportioned correctly, and that the backbone, just like in the Marine Corps, the grunt who carries a rifle, is the backbone. These guys out here on the street that's weed eating and mowing grass in the summer and the cold and digging in the cesspools and, which is not a pleasant job. But I just want to make sure that, that they're able to make a decent pay scale and it's not all the money is getting scaled up.
In order to, to answer your question, in order to have quality people that want to come work for the city of Brewton, then we have to have a quality pay scale. We want people to be able to go to the grocery store, buy a nutritious meal, and be able to serve it to their family and have money left over to pay their power bill and maybe buy their children some nice clothes to go to school in. That's what Brewton needs to be.
I couldn't have said that better.
I thought you were wanting to borrow. I thought you were wanting to borrow my log splitter again. You ever seen Greg sweat? I mean, this guy he's tough looking when he's all wet. Yeah.
DJ, I'm not going to bug y'all too much. I ask you a question for the bottom line. To get to the bottom line, do you know of any idea about this budget thing where there's something several people seen something about a school on Lyles Boulevard called the Lyles Boulevard School? Did you have a chance to research that?
I have started, and I have to apologize. I have not finished. I did ride over to Lyles Boulevard, and I saw the John L. Fisher Center. I was looking for a Lyles Boulevard school. I did not find that, but I will continue to research that, and hopefully in the next week or two have some more concrete information on that. But the John L. Fisher Center is over there, and I understand that they're going to do some great things over there with programming for young people, and I'm all for that. Anything that's going to benefit or be helpful for young people, you can count me in. We just need to make sure that's what's taking place.
Well, my wife is over at the John L. Fisher Center here a few weekends ago, and a few of the churches in the city were there helping, painting, fixing up, and doing an excellent job of helping revive and get the John L. Fisher Center up and running for the community needs around here.
I think there's a lot of. I think a lot of people. And that's a great point, Frank. I think a lot of people in this community have volunteered and put their time and monies and effort into the Fisher Community Center. I know I've seen lots of people over there painting.
Yes, it's a good community involvement.
I know Michael Scher has went over and volunteered his time and cleaning carpets and things such as that. So a lot of people in our community have pitched in at the Fisher Community Center for sure.
I guess I have an open-ended question that I guess won't get answered tonight because we don't have the people here necessarily to answer it. They could call in, I guess, and answer if they wanted to. But is the Lyles Boulevard School that's listed in the budget, is that the same thing as the John L. Fisher Center? I'm not sure it's the same thing, and that's my question. Is the Lyles Boulevard School the same thing as the John L. Fisher Center? And if it is, why is it not put in as a line item as the John L. Fisher Center?
That's a good question for the city clerk.
That's my concern. That's my concern.
I don't have the answer to that for sure.
I certainly don't.
But Greg, as you well know, and as we will get to the bottom line of it, we're anxiously trying to get to the bottom line of that for sure. Hey, Greg, thank you for your call from Fort Fleming. You're always welcome on the bottom line.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I love the radio show. Thank y'all. Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Greg.
Got a couple of questions texted in, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I want to get to somebody just had made a good point here. The Remington plant actually plans to employ 2,000 people over the next decade.
Can you imagine 2,000 new people in Brewton? We would almost be back up to what our census was between the 60s and the 80s here in Brewton.
You talk about a shot in the arm.
And then we have a movie theater. We have a bowling alley.
Hello, 5A football.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that would be fantastic. Listen, we've had a couple of other. Let me find them, man. They're just coming in so fast. Stephen Thomas, great question.
The Buck.
Thank you for your question, Buck. Had the realtor of the building right beside of Dirt Cheap contact us end of last week. Frank, what do you feel, or do you feel that the Brewton area could stand another local grocery store?
I feel that they can stand another local grocery store. Does Stephen plan on putting in one of the Greer's, top dollar store, or do they plan on putting rather the Greer's Food Tiger in? It depends on what type of store that they want to put in here. We know that Greer's is locally owned. We know that the Piggly Wiggly in East Brewton is a locally owned grocery store, but Pick and Save is owned in Saxton, Missouri. It's run by local people. Local people work there. They support the community, but that is a big grocery store. Food Giant is their company. They pull out a AWG warehouse, because I know about all these warehouses and stuff like that, because that's where we send seasonings to service those stores.
Question for you.
Okay.
Locally owned grocery stores.
Right.
If
Right.
Knox's grocery store was still in operation, would Nalty seasonings be on the shelf?
Yes, it would. Yes,
Knox's grocery store.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Used
believe.
to deliver.
Oh, yeah. Jim Luttrell, our next door neighbor down the street, he was a delivery guy. Jim Luttrell, a Raymond that's just retiring from Bank Trust or whatever it's called now.
Raymond Lynn.
Raymond Lynn. I mean, they worked at Knox Grocery. I mean, these little old ladies love to see them pull up in their
Knox
yard.
grocery store.
Yep.
When I was a kid, they would deliver groceries like they did, of course, when you were young also.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I had a blue station wagon. I remember the blue station wagon coming in with the big tin of Charles chips.
Oh gosh! And I can remember seeing Jim Luttrell turn the corner and see how far he could burn the tire down going up Evergreen Avenue. Just to see how fast he could go.
Stephen Thomas. Long story short, we need a Greer's grocery store in Brewton.
We did. I've been on Stephen for a couple of years to put a Greer's grocery store in Brewton.
The buck.
Yeah, but you got to look at the demographics. You got to see, they have their studies that they can do, and they got to see what profits they can make here to make it profitable for them to come.
I personally think that we could stand another. I mean, that's. I think.
And I'm going to age myself here a little bit. People that remember the commercials on TV that were my age and older will certainly remember it. Buck will let you squeeze the Charmin at his grocery store. I've done it.
I tell you what, keep your questions, comments, texts coming.
Chelsea had one, didn't she?
Yeah, let's go to Chelsea's.
Let's see. What did she?
She asked what type of.
She was asked. Yeah, she was asked about the. She'd like to know what you think about the grants that have gone out to get businesses to come in to downtown, and in the future, if you were in the mayor's office, what you would do for the downtown area businesses to help promote growth. That's from Chelsea Madden.
Okay. What you have to understand, downtown Brewton, highest traffic count in the city at that one red light. So when people ride through Brewton, whether they're going to the beach or whether they're going to just wherever they're going, traveling through, when they see an empty storefront in Brewton, Alabama, that's throwing a red flag up. That's telling you either the city is not moving ahead or it's dying. So to have an incentive to put something in those stores downtown, I personally bought a building downtown. I'm looking at putting some type of business that will complement Brewton. It's the old Watson Shoe Shop building. Yeah. We actually have a mural on the side of it that's leased to the city. You've got the park there, and you got public parking. So we have plenty of parking in downtown Brewton. So we need to, encourage a new business to come down. We've got to get more people living in Brewton so that we have more money to spread around. Now, but we also need to do the same thing for the other mom and pop businesses that are not in the downtown area. There's incentives. It's one thing I want to mention. Every building in downtown Brewton is on the historical register in downtown Brewton. So I was researching.
I didn't know that.
The other day. Yes, it is. Every building, it's in the historical zone. They are historical buildings, and you can get a plaque. You have to buy it, but sure. It says, and if you go to Brewton and you can get on these websites, it'll tell you what each building in Brewton was for the first time. So the building I have was a grocery store before it was a shoe shop.
What grocery? Any idea what grocery store it was?
Self grocery. So that would be kin to Ed and Dan McMillan. Their mother's maiden name was Self, and I'm sure that's probably some kin to their mother's that might be their mother's parents, because it's not.
My granddad had
a store downtown.
somewhere down there downtown. I can't remember what building it was or what side of the tracks it was on, but I know I've seen some pictures where he had one down there.
Touching on another question, and this may be something that you are, we may have touched on this earlier before we were actually talking on the air. If you were mayor, Frank, the makeup of the city school board and superintendent, not asking specifics about them per se, but elected or appointed, do you have a stance on that?
I like the appointed way to go with the school board. It's always been done that way in Brewton. You get some school boards that are elected, that are in cities, and you do have problems with elections. The next thing you know, you've got drama and turmoil in your school system, and you don't need that. So I like the appointed by each councilman has a person out of their area or in their district that they put up for appointment to that school board.
Had a question. Let me see if I can find it. We've had so many come in. I hate to. I should have, I guess, marked all these, but I don't know how when you're getting so many, I don't know how you mark all these as fast as they were coming in for sure. iPad. Yeah, I guess I should have. Okay. East Brewton using O'Bannon Park instead of Brewton. Somebody's asking the question why. I'm assuming, is that youth baseball? Like I don't know.
I'm not sure what they're talking about.
I'm not sure what they're talking about either.
There's nothing wrong with you using East Brewton coming over.
Oh no.
It's East Brewton and Brewton. They're such a tight knit community.
Sure.
I mean, we have people that went to Neal. We have people that went to Miller. We have some people that they're just vice versa, married people.
Split houses.
Hey, look, you got split houses just like I do. My daughter went to Auburn. My son's at Alabama. My goodness, I just leave during an Alabama-Auburn game, and so.
I'll tell you what.
I got a couple of questions for Frank.
You go ahead,
DJ.
Still
trying to scroll through.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Talk about it, and I went down talk about the chamber and the role that it plays. And I don't really understand how the puzzle's put together. In your vision, if you were sitting in the mayor's seat, what role does the chamber need to play in terms of promoting Brewton and encouraging businesses to come to Brewton, things along those lines?
As an ex-chamber member and president,
okay,
the role of the Chamber of Commerce here in Brewton is to promote businesses, to help in recruit new businesses, to add things that bring people in. Blueberry Festival, the Crawfish Boil, the rodeo. These people are all volunteers on this board. They are all from different parts of the businesses that are here in Brewton. Now, to be on the Chamber of Commerce board, you must be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Invest in Brewton. You need to become a member. Even if you're not a business, then invest in Brewton, because by help your dues help promote Brewton. Now, as the mayor, I would allocate a lot more money to the Chamber of Commerce so that they can travel with the mayor, maybe the president and someone else travel with the mayor as he goes around trying to drum up new business. We have a very young board, but then we got some older people in there too. Steve Nelson Jr. is there. That's probably why I'm running for mayor. I was involved with the chamber years ago. It's probably one of the best times I ever had. It was the first time I ever did it. It was over at the junior college. It was hot. It was just.
It's
hot.
Always hot. Those blueberry festivals.
But
hottest days of the year.
They said, all right, well, you got to run the information booth and sell blueberry books, cookbooks. So I'm there, and people are walking up from out of town and asking you questions about Brewton. Where's a good place to eat? I'm having trouble with my car. It's Saturday. Who's got the cheapest gas in town? If my dog, I'm having a little problem with my dog, who's a good vet here in Brewton? And I was able to answer those questions. And those people that were there in the information booth too were able to do that too. So and then I got to ask him, where are you from? Oh, well, we were coming through Brewton, going to the beach, and saw the Blueberry Festival sign. Pulled in unexpectedly. Wow. They're eating a big bottle or a big bowl of blueberry ice cream and cobbler that the Kiwanis Club has cooked, and all that type. And when they leave, they stop back by that booth and they say, we really enjoyed Brewton, and we'll probably be back next year because this is great. We enjoy the hospitality here in this small city.
Got another question.
Okay.
And this is something that comes up in almost every coffee house conversation, people sitting around lunch, whatnot, talking, anytime a group of people get up. Lodging, hotels,
right,
or having a hotel or maybe another hotel, whatever, however you want to word it. What is the obstacle there? What's the issue there? How do we get around that? How do we navigate it? How do we kind of put that piece of the puzzle in place?
In order to, first of all, the city does not need to be involved in building a hotel, especially at the golf course here. That's not the city's business. They need to help promote and bring in a good quality name brand hotel or lodging here. But right now, everybody goes to Atmore and stays in a hotel or up on the interstate because there's nothing here. So the mayor and city council and just regular people that live here know someone that's in the hotel business that's probably looking to come to Brewton or looking for an area. Now, what do they look at? They look at how much revenue they can make. So can they make that revenue here? They have to run those numbers and make that decision. We saw the Brewton Motor Inn. It's been sold. It's talk about redoing that. Excellent location. I wish the guy luck. I really don't know who they are. I hear it's an investment firm out of Atlanta that they do hotels. And, the city should step up and help these people any way they can to help promote Brewton and improve the quality of life here.
One final question, and then I'll pass it back to Ken if one or two questions have come in as well. If, this is a hypothetical question, and possibly the most important question tonight, if the bottom line ever decided to go mobile and wanted to do a show at a remote location, what are the chances of us getting on the alley over a snapper bed or maybe out there on the point and doing it from there?
Well, unfortunately, I don't own the alley anymore.
What?
I was able, by the help of my wife, who got tired of looking at the alley, decided that it would be a good idea to upgrade to a bigger boat.
Okay.
So now, or bigger, newer boat. So I was able to find a nice used boat that a guy, unfortunately going to a divorce, his wife ended up with the boat. And first thing they do when you die or get a divorce, the wife sells that boat.
Yeah.
So we got a good deal on the boat.
Okay.
So the name of the boat now is the Palustris. Palustris is the scientific name for longleaf pine. Yeah, Pinus
I
palustris.
Did not know that.
Longleaf pine. Me being managing a longleaf ecosystem here in South Alabama, that seemed to be a proper name. Now, you get out of Brewton, Alabama, and you try to find somebody to pronounce the name on the back of that boat is very complicated.
Well, is there room on the Palustris for the bottom line?
Yes, it is room on the bottom line. I think what y'all could do is probably film. I mean, if you want to do that, let's get Jeff Session to go with us. Let's get Bradley Burns to go with us. And
I am all for that.
And these guys are friends of mine. We got Jeff Miller down there, and let's take them out in the Gulf of Mexico so they can say, "Look, guys, we've got so many fish on this boat. There is not a problem with red snapper. Open up and let's
let's catch some fish.
Let's catch some fish. Catch two. It's okay, but let's fish year round.
Sure. So. I mean, kicking it. I mean, just one question that had come in, and I thought was a great one. Somebody said they wanted a Zaxby's.
I sent that one, Ken.
Did you? Okay.
Well, Zaxby's will be here just as soon as we get more higher paying jobs and great industry in here. We've got to get the population back up above 8,000 people here in Brewton in order to make these things a go.
And that's kind of touching on this question. Somebody texts in. There are a lot of issues with our industrial park. What do you know of those details, and what could you do as mayor to help with that?
First of all, I'm going to unlock the gate out there at the industrial park. Have y'all ever been out there and seen that gate that was locked? I mean, golly, I had comments. Where's that gate at? I said, First Street, turn left, is right there, blocks the middle of the road. You can't view the whole industrial park. We need to bring a mulching machine in there and cut some of this trash down that's out there so that you can see what the park needs to look like, see what areas are available, and then you need to push that industrial park. You can't sit here and wait for somebody to knock on your door. They're not going to do that.
Kind of touching on the same kind of similar thing. Are you for or against the water park?
The demographics do not allow a water park to be here. The people that live in Brewton, Alabama, do not have the extra disposable income for entertainment here. If you live here in Brewton, I think what I was looking at, the demographics here, the average salary for a person here is $35,000 a year. Now, if that's a family of four and that's all you've got coming in, you're living day to day. And are people going to stop here in Brewton for a water park when we're only 45 minutes from Pensacola? No.
That brings up another question that came in earlier, and I'm just going to paraphrase because there's too many to try to find. What could we do in Brewton? What could be done in Brewton to make this more of a place where on Friday afternoon families don't have to load up and go to Pensacola or go to Destin or Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, those type of areas. I know that visiting the beach or what have you, but if you weren't every weekend, we talked about traffic count earlier. You ride through Brewton Monday through Friday, the traffic, I drive it every day from North Brewton to South to 31 South. Right. It is crazy, the traffic in Brewton. But on Saturday and Sunday, it is a ghost town.
It is. It is. And that goes back to industry. You got to get the population up here to have more to do on the weekends. It's fine to, have the crawfish boil on the weekends. That's a great thing to do. The rodeo, that's where the chamber comes into play. They see a more broad spectrum of people here in Brewton and find out what they want. But these programs have to pay for themselves. The city is not in the entertainment business. They can be to a certain extent, but you just can't spend thousands and thousands each week on entertainment,
Next question, and you may or may not know the answer to this question. I don't know the answer to this question. Is the city of Brewton looking at putting an amphitheater in at the college golf course?
There's a lot of rumors going around. I haven't heard that one. I can't answer that.
What I've been told about the college golf course is that the city is actually going to take control of taking care of the course. I don't think that for what I was told, I don't think the college has actually done anything with the golf course in months. Far as
if the city's going to take over and maintain the Jefferson Davis Community College golf course, then they need to deed it to the city so it'll be theirs.
Right. Okay. Listen, I tell you what. Let's. It's about 20 after. Let's take a break and then we'll come.
Yeah, we're well past the hour. We'll wrap things up. But we've had a great show here tonight. Let's take a short break.
We'll do it, and we'll be back on the bottom line here in just a few minutes.
Back in Studio B with hour number 2 here. The bottom line in studio guest Frank Nalty. Questions continue to pile in. Ken, fire another couple away at him.
Let's see here, Frank. I'm just going. The Thunder Horse question. When is the grand opening of the Thunder Horse?
Well, we're working with a lot of young ladies around town. Either putting in a boutique down there. We've had some questions about being able to stop by.
What's the Thunder Horse?
That's just the name that we gave that building down there. The Thunder Horse. Well,
will that be on the historic marker?
We can put it on there, but if we call it that, but I'd rather for someone to call it, maybe a restaurant or something. I've had people come up to me and say, "Boy, that'd be great to have a New Orleans style restaurant down there. Your seasonings would fit in good down there." I said, "But I don't like to cook that much. I like to sell seasonings." But I've been joking around with some kids, young ladies in town, and I took a picture of them the other day. We were somewhere, and I said, "Y'all look like the Thunder Horse owners down here," and they're all 19, 21 years old. I said, go to college, let's get out of there, and y'all can open up this and invest in Brewton, Alabama, and then you won't have to leave your mom.
I'll tell you one thing I want to hit on real quick, and it's the time has actually flown by, and I want to kind of get this a little bit. The seasonings.
Yes.
How did they come about? How'd you get into it? How'd you get interested in it? Where are we going?
The same way you get talked into running for mayor. I always cook at my camp house. I have a lot of people come out there, and
you get
like
2 or 3 people talking about it.
Yeah, look, if 2 or 3 people tell you how good something is, your head gets real big, and the next thing you know, you're running for mayor, and then you got the seasoning business too. But I had a lot of good comments about that. The first seasoning I started out was my steak seasoning.
Okay,
and that was something that my dad kind of had, and I perfected it. I put some natural tenderizers in it. You can tenderize a steak. I mean, if you get too much on your finger, it gets really soft. So it's a natural tenderizer. But then we came out with the Creole seasoning, and that's what I use on my chicken when I fry chicken. Now, when we blacken fish on the palustras, we pull out that cast iron skillet, blacken that fish on the back of that boat, and it just melts in your mouth.
Wow.
Especially if you're snapper fishing, get a little bit of that fish bait on your finger and then pick up a piece of that fish. It just adds another whole dimension.
I'm kind of liking that remote show.
I'm telling you, I can't wait for that show. I was just about to chime in and say, can we put one down for the camp as well?
Well, we'll be back out there hunting. I mean, you came out there one night, and we had to roll you out in the wheelbarrow.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and I also want to thank you. Nalty Seasonings has been the sole sponsor of Tiger Talk the last couple of years on Thursdays during football season, and without that support, we wouldn't have been able to bring that program every week, and we appreciate that.
A lot of people don't know this. The Oats uses a lot of my seasonings up there.
Okay,
a lot of them, and they use it. They like it. There's other restaurants in town that also use that seasoning. We also, Neil Baseball. We've got a sign over there. We're community oriented. We're in East Brewton. We're all over.
What grocery stores are you in, Frank?
All right. Well,
you better be in Greer's, or I'll get bugged.
Hey, look, we'll be in. We're in Greer's and Jay.
Okay.
If you're in Jay, but we're here at Pick and Save. We're not in Walmart. We don't do business with Walmart. That's just something we don't do. They're too big for us to go through all the paperwork.
You stay away from the big. You're more of the community-minded, community-oriented.
We're under. We go under the Buy Alabama's Best campaign. You'll see that on the signs when you come into Brewton. They're promoted throughout the state. We're in Piggly Wiggly. We're at Harrington Flowers. We're at Just Do. We're at Tiggledee's downtown. We're at the Curb Market downtown. And if I leave somebody off, I'll get a text about it here.
How many different seasonings do you have out now?
We have a low sodium, what we call a voodoo marinade.
Okay.
I've got one of those daughters that's, headstrong like I am. And so I decided I'd just take her picture and put it on the front of that and made her a voodoo with all the headbands and all that type of stuff hanging out. So, people look and go, golly, that is your daughter.
Yeah.
Is she mean? I went, not really. I mean, you can ask her husband now. He may tell you different. But yeah, we have that. We have a Creole seasoning. We use natural sea salts in all of our seasonings. That's no MSG. Those are the type deals. They're healthy. People go, why don't you have more recipes on your website? And I tell people, your grandmother's recipe that you use and that you like, just take and substitute the salt and pepper and what else in your grandmother's recipe. You can't beat your grandmother's recipe.
Sure.
So just, substitute one of my seasonings for that and just go forward with it.
Are there any other products coming out in the near future or not necessarily?
Not really. I mean, we're kind of just, you can saturate the market with, but I have one. I've had a request to make a crawfish boil, crawfish crab shrimp boil.
Okay.
I'm waiting on Rusty. If you hear this, go ahead and bring me your seasoning so we can taste it. Rusty Miller has a good seasoning he likes to use, and he says, "Gosh," he said, "why don't you just sell this type of stuff?" I said, "Well, bring it to me so we can see what's in it and go from there." So we'll probably do that, but you're gonna have to buy it in a 20-pound box.
So you're gonna tell me that Lance is gonna have to go do some more taste testing?
Yes, but we're gonna put him on the fish diet right now. We just left Jalisco's, and I'm about to bust.
All right, so I this question has been asked a lot tonight, so I'm going to ask this question.
All right.
Okay, the barrels. I'm assuming they're talking about the trash cans in town. We want to know the bottom line. Obviously, the trash cans are all black now, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. DJ and I did. I don't believe there was any maliciousness as far as people, Connie Baggett going and picking up the trash cans and painting them or anything. But there seemed to be a lot of questions surrounding that. If you don't want to elaborate that, I understand. If you do,
I'll touch on it briefly.
Okay.
And I was on the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And being on the Planning Commission, you're familiar with the laws here in Brewton. I've helped write some of them, as numerous other people on the Planning Commission has. I was the vice chairman of the Planning Commission, and I let Yank know just a nonchalant way that the barrels were violating the off-premises sign ordinance. And there's a lot of discussion that went on that. And they were taken up, So months later.
How many cans were out that got taken up? I mean, is there any way 20?
Couldn't tell you.
100?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I didn't count them. So all of a sudden they reappeared maybe a year later. And I told an official at the city, I said, "Look, you need to tell the mayor this is violating city ordinance." After working on the sign ordinances in town, numerous sign companies filed lawsuits against the city. Because
here in
Brewton. And over a period of a few years, those lawsuits were worked out. They got to keep a lot of the signs that were already in existence here in Brewton and everything. So, as a person that's on a city board, it is my duty, required by state of Alabama law, to notify a official that the law is being broken. That's what I did. And
am I correct in like the Bill Salter signs?
Signs.
I've been told that the ones that are existing in Brewton are the only ones that they cannot put any new ones up from this point forward.
And if it's tore up more than 60% from a storm or something, they cannot put it back.
Okay.
Really?
Those are just laws in order to keep Brewton looking nice. Now, I have nothing against a sign. I was talked into buying a sign, coming into Brewton, putting my seasoning on there. My God, my sales just went up 100%. People were driving through. They're not listening to the local radio. They're not reading the local paper, but they see that sign. I mean, they're selling out at Piggly Wiggly. They're selling out at the curb market downtown because they're just kind of pulling in, and seeing that. And I went, golly. I said, maybe that sign ordinance is not a bad deal around town. Maybe you should put more signs there because it really increased my business. So,
just wait and see if an advertising opportunity becomes available on the bottom line. Just think what that might do to sales.
Well, I know that the chatter that went on about these barrels on Facebook, I had some of my brokers call me in other parts of the state. Said, "We can't keep your product on the shelf." It says it's blowing off the shelf. I don't know what type of advertising you're doing down there on the internet, but keep it up. You're doing a good job. I said, you've increased your sales over 1,000%. I said, I'm not going to keep this nonsense up. It was nonsense. It did increase sales. thanks. We went up 1,000% for about 3 weeks, and it went away. I did what my job was to do. I was removed from the planning commission once that happened. And
let me ask you this, Frank, because as we run, being a businessman in Brewton,
right.
You've been a businessman in Brewton. Are you? So you, one of your comments just then, you're not against having the signs that were on the trash can. You weren't against that, but because of the ordinance, that's why it went down the road. It went down.
It went down wrong. It went the wrong way. But now,
sure.
I was never asked what the fix was. Do you know what the simple fix was for those barrels?
I have no idea.
If they would have had the gall to ask, all it had to be was penciled in or put in, sponsored by.
Wow.
That would have saved all this problem. But no.
How about that?
Yeah.
Sponsored by.
Sponsored by.
That sounds like the bottom line.
Yeah.
Listen, that sums up all of the barrel questions right there. I think that we everybody got what they were looking for there on that for sure. On a lighter note, is that David Peace's face on the lumber mural downtown?
It was. David Peace being my brother-in-law, being a big supporter of mine, when it came time to redo that mural, y'all notice how big a nose it had on there. David's got a big old nose, and you ride by there and you look and he's got that big grin, that
friendly face.
And he got that hat on and there's David Peace. Well, when they redid that, whether it was done deliberately or not, he disappeared. Now, if I'm the mayor, we putting David Peace back downtown on
the historic district.
In the historic district, I'm gonna make his grin just a little bit bigger when everybody stops right there, and I might just put down at the bottom, Frank Nalty's brother-in-law.
I can't tell you how many times I rode by there and said, "Man, that looks like David Peace."
Yeah, well, see, his mother was on the board when they painted that, and she handed a picture to the artist and said, "That would be nice to have."
I wonder what Jimmy thought about that. The fact that their mother chose to put David on the wall as opposed to Jimmy.
Well, David, he's the baby of the family. So, it was just no questions asked about that.
Jimmy probably didn't want his face anywhere like that. Knowing Jimmy.
The next time, I want brother's face up there. That would be a welcoming face also.
Brother was out today. He went to, I'm going to put a plug in for Dr. McInnes downtown, put some contacts in brother's eyes.
Okay.
He was knocking the ball out of the ballpark today.
He gets that from his mother.
Well, she is pretty tough with a stick. You can see how David reacts to her.
Listen, I think we've kind of been through all of the questions that have come in, certainly. And Frank, let me say, I think we've got to the bottom line of a lot of things here. Well, we want to give you the floor.
Well, I just want to thank you for having me here. I'll be welcome. I'll be happy to come back and try to answer some questions. My vision is that I want everyone in this city to sit back and go, I would love to have my children here in this city living with me, and it would be even better if my grandchildren could make this their home also. So with that, it's Nalty for 16, and that's the bottom line.
I tell you what, and Frank, and I said it earlier, kind of echoing what Ken said, appreciate you coming on. It's not easy to come in and put on the headset, have the mic go live and take questions, speak. There is no script. There's never going to be a script on the bottom line. We hope to have other people that can be running for office on. We would certainly like for officials in place to come on as well. That'll be up to them on individual cases. But an hour and 40 minutes into this thing, I think that's a testament in and of itself, the kind of program we've had here tonight. And Frank, I can't thank you enough for coming on and being part of it.
I thank you. I was having dinner tonight at Jalisco's with the Peanut Gallery that I hang around. And the Mexican waiter, we call him Taco.
Sure.
He's waiting on us. He said, "You're not hungry. You're not eat much." I said, "No." And then of course the Peanut Gallery has to pipe up and go, "Yeah, he's got a knot in his stomach. He's having to go out on the bottom line." So like I say, I've had a great time being here.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
No, not really. It's only a little after 9:30. I mean, it's not bad time. Yeah. Hey, we're going to have a time change here before long.
That's right.
Just thanks for being here. What we need to do is just, keep moving the city forward. Let's just have a positive attitude. We don't need to have drama and turmoil here because the outside people that live on the